What is up, everybody, and welcome into the DNBA Live Show, straight from around the world, all over the world. Today we are presented, of course, as always, by Illegal Pete's. Oh, only Harrison, that was a sad one.
Jeez, man. We need to up the energy level here.
I know, we're missing Bo, who's usually the self-proclaimed best air horn, but he is now nowhere to be found. Instead, we are left only with D-Line Co.
Yeah! Da, 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 da.
And then down below, we've got Harrison Wynn.
Da, da, da.
And then the absent Brendan Vogt will join us later. And then, of course, tonight's guest, the worst person on earth, my good friend Anthony Irwin.
Oh!
Anthony, welcome into the show.
Yeah!
I was just thinking, I love you guys' intro music. It sounds like an Ocean's movie.
It does.
It does.
Yes.
You want to know what I call this one?
Huh.
Well, I call it Ocean Sample Intro. So it's like, anyway.
You actually called that? Because I didn't know if that was what the track was originally named or if that's what you just named it before you.
No, that's what I
named
named it. So this is like, I don't know if this is interesting or not, but I give all of the music samples I have other names so I can remember it. And this is how I remember this one. It's the one that sounds like Ocean's 11.
It sounds like they just finished their plan, and then because it like opens up real loud, it's like we're kicking this thing off, you know.
We are
overacting.
We are the world's shittiest Ocean's 11 if we're Ocean's 11.
Yeah,
you know?
who's Brad Pitt? Who's Damon?
We're missing half of it.
George Clooney. I'm the George Clooney of the operation.
You do have the gray
Because
hair.
of the salt and pepper, like
Right.
I'm both of the brothers at the same time.
Yeah, but hold on. How are you gonna declare yourself the Brad or the George Clooney of anything? That's
What are you talking about?
it feels like somebody else has to declare you the George Clooney of anything. You can't. That's not something you can decide for yourself.
Whoever wants to be Brad Pitt should be eating something because that dude is literally eating something
Always.
in every scene of every Ocean's movie.
That
No,
part I
that's
have
Brad
down.
Pitt. Brad Pitt. Yeah.
He can get away with that kind of stuff. So today's rundown real quick. We're going to talk about Game 2 of the 2009 Western Conference Finals. That's why we brought Anthony on, a Lakers exceptionalist and historian. We're going to talk about – I want to ask the question now that we have a Lakers person here. We also have Brendan, who's a very big LeBron fan, as am I. Want to ask, is LeBron's career unlucky? I keep thinking about this in this year because this was a year I kind of thought he was going to win a championship. So is he unlucky? And then – I want to talk about Kevin Durant's comments. There was a lot of stuff that is coming out in Ethan Strauss's book. I can't wait to read it, The Victory Machine, that's painting Kevin Durant in a not so great light. We're going to talk about that. Then later on, a little spelling bee. Are you up for NBA spelling bee?
yes. I can't wait. As long as Giannis's name, he's like the greatest, best player going right now, and I can't remember how to spell his name. I still Google it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know how to. Yeah, I know how to obviously say it now. Everybody knows how to say it, but spelling it is kind of a third.
I've not figured out how to spell Jokic's name correctly with all of the accent marks.
There's literally one accent.
I can't do it. I can't make it happen for myself.
It's on the seat.
There's Nikola and Jokic. I can't make it happen.
We're also going to play overrated, underrated, which would be a lot of fun. And then, of course, at the end, you have a chance to come on this show and win a lifetime membership to DNVR if you can get Denver Nuggets question correct. You probably can't, but maybe we'll fit out the leak a little bit later. But first of all, guys, Game 2, the Nuggets win. Here's my one takeaway from rewatching this series through 2 games. The Nuggets should have won Game 1. They should have lost Game 2. I guess it evened out.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate.
It felt like I was watching this game, and I literally texted Adam, I have no idea how the Lakers lost that game.
I know.
None
all I was
whatsoever.
thinking.
I don't get what happened there.
Complete opposite perspective. Because watching these games, like, people usually tweet a spoiler early on, and they'll be like, the Nugs win this game. And for 3 quarters, you're thinking, how? Like, mathematically, how does that happen? They didn't really have much of the momentum. I thought 1 and 2 were a nice kind of flip of each other.
Well, it's funny, like, did Denver play its worst half of the entire 2009 playoffs in the first half of this game. They were dogging it, not running back on defense, not like fighting for any any rebounds or whatever. They were dogging it.
Yeah, it felt like LA nightlife, undefeated first half. Like they've been in LA for a few days at that point. Like,
that'd be very 2009 Nuggets to lose the playoff game because they were partying too hard. That would have.
Kenyon Martin was such an insane athlete, though, that he could have been partying and like nobody would know.
Man, I gotta be honest. Kenyon's my guy. Like so there's the bit of nostalgia where it's like I love these guys. I want to go back and relive it. But then there's also the like when you go back and relive it, then you're kind of like, oh, some of these guys aren't as good. Kenyon's number one to me. Like I've always said he was my guy. I would want to put next to Jokic. Like he'd be the. No, I take it back. It's not true.
Offensively, it would not work. Would it?
That's so funny, man, because he's better than I remembered him at least. Like he's definitely, and he had a nice game in game 2, I thought, defensively and offensively.
Yeah, here's
one
thing.
He should have been thrown out like 3 different times.
Oh, no, man. So we've been watching this whole 2009 run, and I hate to admit it because I hate admitting these types of things, but 100% it was more physical, like a lot more physical. And Kenyon Martin would probably have, I don't know, 12 techs right now at this point in the playoff run if it was today. I think there's no question about it. Another thing,
if you get a double technical with Pau Gasol, and you annoy Pau, like you're the wrong person there. Pau's the nicest person ever. Like if you tweak Pau, that's on you. Mike D'Antoni could attest to this too.
I feel like Pau's not around very much. I don't hear from Pau very much anymore.
Pau's got like a life.
He's still literally in the league.
Yeah, he's not begging for our attention. He doesn't need to be
a doctor.
Yeah.
What's that? Well, yeah,
he's like trying to be a doctor.
Like, if he wants to be a doctor, he will be a doctor. I'm sure of it.
Paul Pierce is begging to be in the horse competition and trying to get a retirement tour a near decade later. How's going to medical school?
In a lot of ways. No, I was going to say we can all agree, except for maybe Anthony. Sasha Vujacic, I didn't think I hated him as much as I do. Watch, just like seeing him, I'm like, he's the one Laker that's kind of given me a visceral reaction where I'm just like, oh, this guy.
I'm telling you, for me, and I feel like we need to have a new segment on the show called the Haters Corner.
Okay.
Starring Eric Weedham. Number one in the Haters Corner is Sasha Vujacic, obviously in there, Jordan Farmar, and oh my God, Luke Walton. Oh my God,
really?
I can't stand that guy.
What he's like against Luke Walton?
He's like constantly throwing passes behind his back, and you're like, dude, you're Luke Walton. All right,
he's like doing good basketball things.
He's just a nice fundamental player.
This is the Haters Corner. Anthony.
I mean, Laker fans hate Luke Walton now too because of how bad he was as a coach. So
I wonder if it was easier to be, because I was a huge Luke Walton stan, believe it or not. Like I thought
this doesn't shock me at all.
Well, Zach Lowe has the Luke Walton All-Stars every year because it's like, honestly, Luke Walton is like the Wancho. It's not that he does anything great. He's just always in the right spot. He it doesn't show up anywhere in the box score, but it's.
I don't even think Bill Walton is a Luke Walton stan. Like who's a Luke Walton stan?
He's like, yeah, Luke's all right. Luke is all right.
Well, that's more. I'll be honest. Luke Walton is every chance he's had it, but myself included. But no, I do think it's easier. Like so tonight, game ball. Lannis Kleza, like this is what's funny is the Anthony Carter from game 1 is the only Anthony Carter everybody remembers. They don't remember him being like solid or a good teammate. They only remember him throwing the ball away. And I feel like every Nuggets fan only remembers game 2 Lannis Kleza because his career 3-point percentage is like 32%.
But he's a shooter, baby.
He's a shooter. He's a 41-point game also. Yeah,
he's Torrey Craig, and I remember him being Malik Beasley.
How about Mark Jackson on the call, where he's like, "You move the ball, it will find a shooter." And we got a slow motion shot of Linus Kleza, and
Linus Kleza. There's another Ocean's reference.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, Linus.
Like how is this happening in the Western Conference Finals? He's not a shooter, actually.
I think Kleza benefits a lot from being like that 6'6" European guy who looks like he should be a good shooter.
I think he's like 6'9", 6'8" or 6'9".
Well, like 6'6" plus guy. You know, like big-ish guy who looks like he should be a good shooter, has a nice stroke, so people just think like, oh yeah, he was knockdown, but like not
Oh yeah,
really.
I mean it's because nobody else can remember anything else he was even decently good at. So it's like it has to be shooting, you know.
Yeah, but he also has devastatingly good looks. Like a lot of times they would zoom into close. Yeah, I was devastated more than once when they would show his face because he had like sort of a mean look to him, but like then those piercing eyes. I was smitten.
Yeah, Kleza was definitely not the OG Juancho. Kleza, I don't even know who to compare him to. He was kind of like a JR to be the Lithuanian JR. He just tonight he happened to make them all, so he was great. I see Price 303 in here says that Andrew Bynum. I didn't hate Andrew Bynum. I actually really liked Andrew Bynum.
I hated Andrew Bynum a lot.
Why?
So did his neighbors, right?
Big JJ Barea guy.
It's weird because I remember him being so much better in this series than he actually was. Like just looking at his stats for what he did in this series, not really a big factor, but I just remember killing the Nuggets for some reason.
Anthony, when was his best season? Do you remember?
The year they traded for Powell. He was a monster. He was actually that year. That was the 07-08 year.
Yeah.
Where it started with Kobe demanding a trade. He was open to playing on Pluto, according to Kobe, and then he came into the year and Bynum was playing out of his mind. He was playing really, really well, and it was enough to convince Kobe to kind of stick around. Then Bynum gets hurt,
that didn't age well.
dislocates his knee, and then they trade for Powell, and here we are. But the best Bynum, we never saw the same Bynum ever really again.
Yeah.
He was, though. It's you're right, Anthony. He's the butt end of a joke now, but there was a 12 to 14 month period where you were wondering if Bynum was going to be a legitimate problem for years to come.
Oh yeah,
he was the second best. He was the second best center in the league behind Dwight.
Yeah, he had like best offensive big man in the league ceiling, and might have been at one point.
Yeah, he was really solid inside, like really light on his feet for his like size and strength.
Yeah, great feet.
He kind of reminds me of a child star because he came in at like 17. He was super young, and he retired kind of early as well. But he kind of seemed like a guy that missed the childhood. And I think you see this a lot with bigs where they like later on in his life, it seemed like he just wanted to go back and do college age things and stuff. And him going out of the league, he went out hilariously. Maybe there was a dark side of this, but he went out on his own terms. Do you remember him taking 3-pointers as soon as he was stepping up the court?
He was just ahead of his time, Adam. What are you talking about?
Wasn't he like going bowling and stuff when he was injured and like throwing bangers at his rented house?
He showed up like this was like early days of social media. He was like 2009. Somebody on Twitter had him like at their house party.
I remember this. Just like it was yesterday, he was recovering, and back then they had just introduced the gravity treadmill, right? Where it was like it would measure like the percentage of the weight that you were running on, and it was basically a tracker in the LA Times. It was like Bynum is at 40%, he's at 50%, and then he got to like 70%, and everybody was like, "Oh heck yeah, he turned a corner, he's about to come back." And then a clip goes viral of him in like a Ferrari jacket at the Playboy Mansion with like a Playboy bunny on each shoulder.
Oh wow!
It was incredible.
He's just trying to get in some like weekend weightlifting.
He was recovering to do that stuff. It wasn't to come back and play basketball.
I just remember in Cleveland with his hair. He had a new hairstyle every day.
I've been to the Playboy Mansion as a laborer. It is wild. There's just peacocks and monkeys walking around.
As a laborer? What do you mean as a laborer?
As as the help. No, like I was like,
I think it's called a fluffer.
Were you like hired for some party?
Yes, that's exactly what was happening.
Oh.
I wasn't
He was
like
Bynum's spotter. He was just making sure like the one bunny didn't fall off. There's Brendan right there.
No, I guess what I'm trying to say is I wasn't invited to the Playboy Mansion
or welcome.
But it is like a little weird. Like there's peacocks and monkeys walking around, and like I'm not an
now I have a restraining order.
Yeah. Now for some reason I'm not allowed back.
You and Johnny Drama not allowed back.
I almost got destroyed by P. Diddy's security guy because like I was supposed to have a specific vodka bottle on the table, and and he just walked over and threw it all off and put Ciroc down. And I was like, "Hey, my boss told me to," and this dude just turned around and looked at me and he said, "What did your boss say?" And I was like, "Nothing."
Was it Bynum?
It might have been. I was too short to get a good visual. It could very well have been Andrew.
What did your boss say? LA's so weird.
That's incredible.
LA's so weird. That is
the weirdest place on earth.
It definitely is. It's fun though. It's fun.
Can we go back to Anthony Carter though? Because
sure.
Like,
were we ever on Anthony Carter?
What they want.
Well, Adam was like making the case for like he was better than people remember him for being. I remember Anthony Carter fondly. Like there was nothing. I literal text I sent to Adam. There was nothing that made me happier in 2009 in that portion that like month or a couple week stretch where Anthony Carter walks onto the court, because it usually meant Chauncey was walking off. And then for some reason, George Karl had him guarding Kobe, which, certainly a choice.
I mean, your other options were Dante Jones, who picked up 4 fouls in about 4 minutes in the first quarter in this game. JR, so not really an option. Melo and like Chauncey. I mean, they didn't have many options.
I think Chauncey was their best option. Would you guys have been that freaked out of Dante Jones fouling out though? Was that a big loss?
He's the number one guy you would choose to pester Kobe, right? If you could.
Yeah.
Melo, Brendan kind of had this comment too. Melo sort of gets a reputation for really buckling down on the defensive end in this series and in this playoff run, and a little underwhelming.
I'm not sure I'm seeing it, guys. I'm going to be honest.
Shannon Brown burned Melo for 2 backdoor cuts in this game, I believe. Absolutely burned him.
There's like 4 or 5 plays where him and Kobe are like really battling, and I think that's what people are talking about.
Yeah.
Plays, not any other like.
He touched Kobe's forehead once, and they were like, "Oh my god!"
And Kobe hit the shot, but
Melo was a stud though offensively. My God, he was fun. We both just.
He's had 3 of the worst closeouts I've seen in my life in this playoff run, though.
Poor George Karl. Anthony, why isn't because you haven't been watching this one, but now we're 2 games in, and this Nuggets team is really good. This was a really fun battle. There was top end talent. There was interesting role players like Birdman and J.R. Smith. Like this Nuggets team to me had enough players for it to be an interesting one. It just seems like it's never talked about. It's almost like a forgotten series. Is it a forgotten series in Lakerland?
Well,
they've got bigger fish to fry. Yeah.
It was a Western Conference Finals for one thing. So like for Laker fans, it was it's not a final series, and it wasn't But also, like Melo leaving, I think really affects the way that people look back on this. It was like, oh wow, that's right. Melo was a Nugget for a bit before he was a Knick, and then. It was kind of at the tail end of Chauncey's career also, which, people think of Chauncey more as a Piston, I think, than they do as a Nugget.
Well, right.
And so like you have that kind of dynamic going on. But yeah, you're right. It was a really fun matchup. I wish we got more of these matchups, right? I think we only got 2.
Well, the year before was a sweep, so yeah, you got that one, but that was an Iverson Nuggets team that was, I think, wholly different. But this series is a really good one. And I think a pretty memorable one. But it's kind of funny because I just almost never hear it talked about.
I mean, it was like I said, it's really too bad that Melo pieced out for New York and was so was so hell bent on getting to New York, because if he sticks in Denver. That's another fun. I wouldn't go so far as to call it a rivalry, but it's a fun dynamic between them and the other, not just the Lakers, but the other Western Conference teams that were there. The Mavericks were there as well, obviously the Spurs. And so, if the Nuggets are also good there, you have four teams that at any point the Nuggets could have beaten the Magic in the finals.
For sure.
That could have, so that you had 4 potential title teams that were all going to go up against each other for that little run there. But Melo was more interested in getting to New York.
There's only one person I've ever heard say that the Magic would have won that series, and that's Matt Moore.
Howard.
No,
that's a very Matt Moore take. I wish I could frame that somehow.
Yeah, he also said it on the Locked On Nuggets podcast, which I just died at.
like would have or could have, right? Because
would have. Yeah, of course.
Would have.
No, he said would have. He would take Orlando in that series. Which who knows?
Orlando very easily could have beat the Lakers though. Courtney Lee missed a layup in game 2 that could have sent it back to Orlando, with Orlando having home court advantage. That could have been a really interesting. God bless Courtney Lee and his inability to make that layup, but they were really good, and steroids help, but they were really good.
Oh wow.
Do they?
That's a good
basketball?
They do, actually, as it turns out.
Yeah.
Well,
remember David Stern was like, no, steroids don't help in basketball. It doesn't. It's like, what?
What are you talking about?
Excuse me?
All right, well, we got to keep it moving. Is there anything else anybody wants to say about this game or the series from tonight?
I just wanted to. Oh, go ahead, Harrison.
Oh, I was just going to say, we were talking about Anthony Carter. Going back and watching that pass in game 1, it was a bad pass, but Chauncey didn't really help him out much on that either. Like, Chauncey really could have come to that ball or just kind of helped him out in some way. He really just let Ariza jump in front of him.
I think Anthony Carter is the third most guilty person in that inbound play. Meaning there's two people.
Who's the second, George Karl?
George Karl's probably number 1. He should have never had – they had was it Lamar Odom shadowing him? He had so much more size on him. So he should have never been the guy inbounding the ball. And then, like you said, Chauncey stops on it. So Anthony Carter, poor guy. This is
a hilarious 11 years later campaign from Adam Mares to clear the name of Anthony Carter.
I know.
This better get him on you guys' show.
Yeah, right?
At the end of this, he isn't on the show.
Yeah. Also, last thing for me, Trevor Ariza was like a under 20-minute per game player until this series, and then the rest of his career is entirely different. He started every game for the last 10 seasons, playing 30+ minutes a game after this series. Crazy.
I was so thrilled when they traded. For one thing, they traded Brian Cook for him, which was just godsend. I was jumping up and down
of the Lakers.
What's that?
He was the Claza of the Lakers. Brian Cook. He wasn't really that good of a shooter.
Yeah, right.
He had steely
Well,
good
I don't think any Lakers fans thought that Brian Cook was good. Like, not a single one of us. But when they turned Maurice Evans and Brian Cook into Trevor Ariza, and I was thrilled about the trade. For one thing, he was a UCLA kid, so I kind of liked him coming out of college. And then he got here. He shot out of his mind in the postseason, which really allowed him. I think for one thing, it showed how valuable he could be if he hit that shot, and then it really got him to focus on making that shot a lot more. And yeah, it completely changed his career. He was stuck in Orlando. He got drafted by New York. It was just bad circumstance after bad circumstance. He comes here to the Lakers, wins a championship, and then is still in the league somehow 10 years later.
It is kind of wild that he's still in the league.
Yeah.
I heard his tenure in Phoenix was not that great. All right, did you have something else, Vote, before we move on?
Do you guys think Melo gets another shot at a title if he stays in Denver?
Man, the next year was so cursed for the Nuggets.
I know.
The 2010 team should have ran it back, and they should have challenged the Lakers for that one that year, but it was a cursed season.
It's at the end of the rope, it felt like, right?
And then next year he was asking out, so it was I don't know. It did feel a little bit like it had run its course, but I do think had George Karl not gotten cancer, maybe things would have been a little bit different. But I don't know.
It's a big what if, man. It's a big what if.
They absolutely would have had another chance. Like if they could have reloaded with more players, like there's different Kobe eras in Los Angeles. I mean, like it ebbs and flows, but like Melo gutted the Knicks in order to go there, and like it's like he ruined both teams. If he would have stayed in Denver, he absolutely would have had more opportunities to go to.
Well, so you're saying because the Lakers were better the next year, and I think we're better equipped to beat the Nuggets if Melo was still around.
Yeah,
but I'm saying
though. I mean, you're right. It would have been, they still would have had to have overcome them, but the Nuggets were, just a better team that next year as well. And they were on pace for a better record until George Karl got cancer, and they lost like 20 of their last 30.
But it does seem to me like 09 was the year. Like this was if you're going to pick a Nuggets team that would have maybe won a finals, I think it's this squad.
Without question.
Yeah.
Because was Billups ever as good as he was that year again? I think that's the bigger question than
I mean you could get a replacement for Billups. I mean, really
I don't know, man.
Dude, 09 Billups
valuable for you guys.
I'm not saying that Billups
terrified me every time he was on the court.
I'm not saying that Billups could be. You can just plug another player directly in for Billups, but I'm saying like you can build around the core of Carmelo Anthony. You can bring. We had Allen Iverson that turned into Chauncey Billups. You could have brought. There's
sure.
You could build another team around Carmelo Anthony.
But you have that faith in Melo then. Do you, Harrison? Like, is Melo a kind of guy that like those parts can be interchangeable, or does the recipe have to be perfect?
No, I mean, I've been saying throughout this playoff run, like Chauncey was the perfect guy for Melo at this point in his career. I feel like I feel like he needed Melo as opposed to Iverson. No, he just needed he needed Billups as opposed to Iverson
for sure.
Yeah, Billups was really good in 2009, 2010. I'm looking at it though.
But don't you think there's something to the idea that they sort of figured out what Melo needed in a teammate and what he needed to complement him on the court, and then once they figured that out, he just bounced, and then it was just starting all over with an entirely new cast of characters.
Well, what kind of team do you build around Melo is the question that I always kind of fall back on, because
you just can't have him be the leader.
He wasn't really a facilitator.
Oh, well, right? No. I mean, he was clearly a number one option, like
number one scorer.
2008, 2009, 2010. Like he could be your number one guy. I feel like.
Yeah, I just think finding a balance between making him your highest usage player, but also like benefiting or trying to make up for his relative lack of facilitating skills. I think that'd be kind of a tough thing to balance, and I think that's always something that plagued him, from this point on throughout his career.
Yeah.
Not just the defensive stuff. The defensive stuff is what everybody points to, but if you're going to have the ball as much as Carmelo Anthony wants to have the ball, you have to be able to create for others in a way that I don't think he really could.
Yeah. Well, Melo didn't win very many playoff games, let alone series. So I mean, his career sort of bears that out.
This team needed one more shooter, probably. They had enough defenders, I feel like, on the perimeter and on the interior to kind of offset Melo. Maybe just one more shooter would have done it.
Maybe one more perimeter defender as well.
If Klaiza was really like a 36, 37%
Klaiza was the player that people think Klaiza was.
Instead of the 33% guy.
Then they're golden.
All right, let's move on though, guys, because we're behind. We're gonna have to skip the LeBron stuff, but let's ask. So Ethan Strauss's book just came out, and I have a couple things. So first of all, there's a section here, Kevin and Me. I'm just going to read the quote here.
Great chapter title. Great chapter title.
I reached out to Kevin Durant for the chapter. This exchange via text ended as follows. Him, F you. F your sources and your book. How much money you paying me for my chapter? Ha, how much money you think it's worth? Not enough.
That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, he just insulted himself.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm not interesting.
So that sets the tone for how this book was going to go. You always do it.
These snippets are incredible.
They're incredible. And, some backstory here. Ethan is the one that asked the question that Kevin Durant said, who are you? We did that whole thing, the whole back and forth. Allegedly, they were pretty contentious. And Ethan has kind of, he said some things on podcasts, but he hasn't necessarily really gone at Kevin Durant's throat. Apparently, he was saving it all for the book.
He played this perfectly, man.
He really did. I'll share another little excerpt here. Apparently, he really hated Maurice Spates. Go figure. Of all people,
so good.
Are you guys seeing this? Is it popping up on there?
It's the same one from before.
Kevin Me still.
Oh my God! You got to be kidding me. Here, let me pull it up. I know how to do this. It only takes me like 10 seconds here.
Come on, Clooney.
This snippet blew me away today.
The Spates one, can you see it now?
Oh, yeah.
So you did not have to be a star or rising star to draw KD's envious ire. When Mo Spates returned to Oracle Arena, he got a hearty ovation from the crowd. Mo Buckets had been a fan favorite. He wasn't a flawless player, but his enthusiasm was infectious and fans loved it. But KD complained that he got more accolades from fans than he did. And one day after a game, KD was sitting there while Mo Buckets was talking to the local media, and he loudly looked over and said, "How can you call yourself Mo Buckets when you never average 20 points per game?"
Jesus. I mean, I don't even roast Eric that hard. I don't
Yeah, you do. You absolutely do.
I kind of do, yeah. But you don't deserve it.
I certainly don't.
Seriously though, so we know Eric and I were talking a little bit before this, but Katie, if we rewind back to whatever it was, 2013, 12,
the anti-LeBron,
riding a bike around Oklahoma City with a backpack.
Remember the servant? We should have known with the servant. We should have known, this guy, this probably isn't going to work out well.
What happened?
He passed up on, what was the nickname before that, right? It was like the...
Something good, the Durant.
The Slim Reaper.
Slim Reaper.
Anybody who passes up on the Slim Reaper for the servant, we're heading down a dark path here. This is not going to end well.
Great take. The Slim Reaper was a great name.
It's an incredible turnaround, honestly, for our guy KD. I mean,
I've never seen anything like it.
He's he just comes off as one of the most insecure. And look, we should say these are snippets from a book. The context we're missing a lot of context. I can't wait to read the book. It'll probably be what I do this weekend. I am so in. Ethan's like my favorite writer. I can't wait to get into it. I think it's going to be a fascinating story, but I think back a lot to Bill Simmons' Book of Basketball, and I really love the part about the secret, right? This idea that basketball is a team sport, and even though it's obvious, it's actually a thing that these great players have to learn, and they have to like learn how to like take pride in other people's success. Kevin Durant in the story hates that Steph Curry is the loved one of Golden State and just like seems to have this personal rivalry with him, and even has a personal rivalry with Mo Spates. Like, it's weird to me that this guy has 2 Finals MVPs and 2 championships, and yet he seems to resent anybody getting any credit besides himself.
Yeah, how weird that Steph Curry would be a fan favorite on a team that he came to, where Steph Curry was a unanimous MVP the year before. What is wrong with this guy?
I think there's a chance, like, anytime you have, like, I mean, he's so good at basketball, I think people might do some rough approximation to what we might call genius in someone else. And I think KD stands and KD himself, like, there's this small percentage, like, no, I'm actually just misunderstood. I've got some really interesting things to say, and you guys just don't get it yet. But all these years, and with each snippet that comes out later, to me, it seems pretty clear, like, no, we were just wrong in our initial read on who this guy is. And like, his insecurity is not some noble, interesting trait that makes him relatable. Like, that's being a terrible teammate.
Yeah.
If there's one thing we can all probably agree with or agree on, is it's that it's probably going to go really, really well when he and Kyrie get the team up. Right? Yeah. It's definitely working out.
You know what is so funny, and I agree with you. I think it's going to be a disaster, but it is funny that both of them kind of share the same sort of philosophy, the same sort of like, hatred for everyone. So
you just don't get me. You don't get my genius.
Yeah, like that.
We're gonna all not get it together, so I'm kind of excited. For that.
Can we send Ethan to Brooklyn to cover that team?
Oh man,
dude, what a power move that would be if Ethan just moved to Brooklyn.
I've said on the show over and over again, I'm so excited for this Michael Jordan documentary, but all of a sudden now we're starting to get little crumbs coming out. Might paint Jordan in a little bit of that Kobe light. The Kobe can be an asshole teammate. Michael Jordan said he thinks he's going to come look at like a horrible guy after watching The Last Dance.
I'm sure he will.
Are you concerned at all that Jordan is going to like the Jordan mystique is going to wear off after this documentary a little bit?
Isn't the mystique something we created for him that we just ignored a bunch of stuff to create?
I mean, that's a lot of it. That's what I mean, though. Like he came about in an era and left before the things had kind of changed, and now we all want this. Like we've been trained as an audience to want the like gritty. This is why Ethan's book is so exciting. We're like, oh yeah, I want to hear Kevin Durant sound like a douchebag. Like this, maybe The Last Dance is trying to feed us that part of him.
Well, it's just the way that we viewed leadership has evolved.
Yeah.
Like it used to be you punch Steve Kerr in the face and it got him to play better.
Then he hits a game winner. Yeah.
Right. And then, nowadays, if like LeBron had punched Matthew Dellavedova in the face, probably doesn't go over as well. I don't want to shift the goalposts on what we consider a good leader and stuff and redefine it based on what we consider good leadership now. Obviously, some of the stuff that Jordan did worked. Now, could it have been better? I know Steve Kerr has gone on record to say that if Jordan doesn't step away those 2 years, they don't win 8 straight. I would imagine a lot of that had to do with the way that Jordan kind of handled leadership. Right. I wonder, I'd be interested to see if that's what Kerr is kind of alluding to there. But at the end of the day, redefining this stuff and recharacterizing some of this stuff, I think you're heading down a tricky path there, because this isn't the way that we always viewed what was needed to be successful in competitive sports.
The other thing that you have to consider here is this is Michael looking at himself, which is like a different, you're so much more critical of yourself. Like I remember when the Tribe Called Quest documentary came out, there was a huge kerfuffle, Q-Tip wanted the film to be not released because he didn't think he came off very well in it. And he didn't come off that great, but it doesn't matter. Like, it's like, it just takes you back to that time and you sort of just see, you know, how things actually were. And for Michael Jordan, you know, he didn't play in a time where every single clip immediately went up online and everything was dissected and you had to think about every single part of it in the same way we do now. I mean, obviously he was the center of the universe, so there was a lot of focus on it, but I'm sure he just wasn't forced to have as much self-reflection as this documentary is giving him. And so he's looking at it in a different light. So I think he's wrong. I don't think he's going to come off like a jerk at all.
Well, I also think too, it makes Jordan more interesting to me that he's able to watch this and say, "Oh, ugh.
Yeah,
right," because
I don't know, man.
Well, no, because like
I think Jordan has avoided the spotlight because he's always understood this. Like, yeah, if you can't, stay away
without the basketball stuff. Yeah,
but like he also. Does the person who is aware of his own assholedness go out there and give his Hall of Fame speech?
Well, yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's a good point. It's a great point.
What are the odds that players watch this documentary and maybe are a little inspired by Jordan's like ridiculous leadership style? Maybe not like to the level of punching Steve Kerr in the face, but couldn't you just see a Jamal Murray just coming back to training camp and being like, I watched that Jordan dog and I am a fan. Man, I'm ready players saying that.
I'm ready for Jokic to come back and be a little bit.
Me too. I need this. I need the Jokic LeBron. The Jokic Jordan.
I think Anthony's earlier point is really interesting though, because I think a lot of what broke up the Warriors was KD being who he was, but the media being what it is and the state of the media today was obviously a factor, maybe an accelerating factor. So to the point about Kerr's comments, do they do the 8 straight? I mean, maybe some of it is if the media is there to examine Jordan's approach day in and day out, and we're critiquing his approach and not just the results in real time, what does that do to that team chemistry, his desire to be there, and so on and so forth? One of the most impressive things about LeBron's career, every second of it has been under this microscope.
Yeah.
And he's handled it as well as he has. Could you imagine Michael in the Twitter era? Like he'd be at some casino the night before Game 7, you know, the night before the flu game, right? Like we would have, it's always like a running joke now that he was just hungover in the flu game. It's become a bit of a running joke. But if we had definitive evidence because somebody snapped a picture and put it on Twitter, that he was just hammered the night before. Like,
either way,
come on, he's out hammered on Utah.
I could barely tweet when I'm hungover. Even if he was just hungover, that's still impressive.
Guys, I drank one Strawberry Sky yesterday, or actually, no, I had the summer one, Summer Beach, and I swear to God, I was hungover this morning. No, Mountain Beach, that's what it was.
Harrison, where's your list of washed Adam takes or washed Adam?
So, yeah,
one beer and he's hungover.
Everybody, welcome in. Live on the show.
Happy birthday,
boy, Anthony. You didn't realize you had to do this. Oh, look at that.
Oh, glad to see you figured out audio.
So, David, happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
It's still your birthday.
What did you do for your birthday?
I worked and I ordered Pizza Hut hot wings. So pretty good.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Pizza Hut. Wow.
just like a Michael Jordan night. Sounds like the kind of night that he would go out there and have before the flu game.
I wanted Fire on the Mountain, but they didn't deliver to me. So I just
You went for the next best thing, which was 20 steps down the mountain.
I'm a block away, man. I can socially appropriately deliver this to you if you want. No contact.
No contact. Yeah, that's very important.
I went out today for the first time in I went to Denver for the first time in a really long time, like the downtown Denver. It was weird. It was very, very.
Did you try by the bar?
I did not. It was a quick trip. But I did get a very cool, where's that? Very cool Byron Beck bobblehead back here, which I think is it's very lovely. Got to add it to the old set. All right, so we're going to David. You're here just in time to join us on Spelling Bee.
Spelling.
How are so bad at these games?
So that's a good example. They spelled spelling wrong there. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that's the bit there. There we go.
I'm just making sure they understand. You want
visual humor. You wouldn't understand.
It's going to be you versus Anthony, and it's first one to get an incorrect answer is out of here.
Go out. You don't even get to say goodbye.
You don't even get a goodbye. Who wants to go first?
I'm not going first if that's
all right, I'll go first. You kicked me off the show last time.
The nice thing is the first one is the easiest one. First question. Linus Kleza.
Is it me?
This is David.
Oh, it's me. Okay. All right. Linus Kleza. So the whole name. And I have to do the spaces.
Well, okay, we'll just assume the space.
Linus Kleza made 3 3-pointers against the Los Angeles Lakers.
Okay. All right. Sorry, can you use it in a sentence?
Yeah. Linus Kleza went 3 of 7 from 3 against the Lakers in game 2.
Linus Kleza is a shooter.
16. Game high, plus 16.
It's Linus Kleza. Can we stop with Linus?
It is Linus. It is Linus.
Is that an adjective or a noun?
God damn it, David. I'm going to kick you off.
Keep going. I'm going to win.
All right. This is all the airtime I'm going to get. I'm going to totally bomb. All right. LINUS space.
Get out of here!
Did I just win?
Yeah, you won, Anthony.
All right, John.
Hell yeah.
Did you Google this? Actually, you probably Googled this. LINASKLEIZA. Linus Kleza. David.
It was also in the chat. Please don't spoil it.
Yeah, come on, Edmund Packers.
So close. All right. You have an easy one, Anthony. You're up now, Anthony.
All right.
Vlatko Chanchar.
Oh, yeah, God. Easy.
You should remember this from Summer League. Yeah.
He does
exist. I'm going to say goodbye ahead of time here. It was a lot of fun. This is a good time.
It's
BLATKO.
So far, so good.
Space.
Good call.
Important. Just to David for that one.
CANCAR.
Oh my God.
Wow.
He is mine.
I take back my goodbyes.
I thought you had no chance at that one.
Look at it. And Jordan shook. Look at him.
I mean, technically, these are special characters, right? So.
All right, this is a little tough. Jordan, Jamario Jones.
Okay.
Jamario
It's rigged.
I don't know this.
JEMAR.
Gil, he's out. So close, Jamario.
Go watch another movie, Jordan.
Mario Jones. So close. All right, David, you have a chance to
Sorry.
Actually, it's Anthony's up again.
Anthony, I was like, what is this? He doesn't do anything.
Anthony, we need another preemptive goodbye before this.
Yeah.
Oh, wait,
let me hear the name first.
Svi Mikhailuk.
See you later, Anthony.
Put him on the spot.
Actually, wait, so am I allowed to just go with it? Because it's like Sviatoslav.
No,
right?
it's fine. It's Mikhailuk. If you nail that one, you deserve it.
All right, so SVI.
Good job.
Space.
Yep.
Oh
Space
man, this one always tripped me up. Again, it's a lot of fun. It was a good time.
Gets hard after the space.
Please never let Adam live down the fact that he called himself George Clooney.
We never will. Don't worry. We never will. Never will.
That is noted.
I understand so much more about Adam now.
MYKH Mackay MYKH man.
Oh,
Ukrainian
YLUI.
Get out of here!
Get out of here! Thanks for playing. He should know. They've tweeted about him.
I know. I thought Anthony had a shot with that one based on how many people surely blogged about him. I thought he had a shot.
But seriously, Anthony, great. Thanks so much, buddy. You were
Thanks
awesome.
for coming on.
Thanks, man.
Never come back. See you now.
A real good.
Oh, he's back.
All right. So now, David, you're the last one here. You get this. You get a shot at the steps.
Ooh.
Climb the steps.
The phrase is force majeure. It's been a topic of conversation over the last week or two. Force majeure.
Or some would say majeure.
Could you use that in a sentence, please?
Unforeseeable circumstances that prevent someone from fulfilling a contract. That's a definition.
It basically means God got in the way.
The NBA may invoke the force majeure if
Okay, there we go.
cancels games.
I like how Harrison's the one on point here with he's like, okay, I can make a sentence.
Well, the language of origin's French, if that helps, David.
Okay. All right. Do I need to sign any of
David, I swear to God. Wasn't your birthday, you'd already be out of here.
Do not test George Clooney.
Just trying to be really, really clear with the rules here. All right. God. All right. It was really great being on the show.
You should probably get the first word.
I couldn't get Linus, man. All right. FORCE space MAJEUR.
He did it, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. Round of applause.
Wait, this doesn't have an E in it? Hang on. Doesn't force majeure have an E at the end?
Wait a second.
What are you, Dan Quayle?
I'm sorry. We saw the graphic. The
graphic's wrong. There's an E at the end. He's out of here.
Kick George Clooney out of the chat.
All right, you know what? We both got it wrong, so I guess that's our contestant today on the steps. Eric, give me a round of applause. All right, it is your birthday. Nobody has made it past number 9.
I'm going to bomb so hard.
David, who did not watch basketball in 2009.
I didn't watch basketball. The first NBA game I ever fully watched was when Melo played Denver the first time again.
Oh, wow.
So my knowledge of all this is
all right. Well, this could be a real Cinderella story. We'll see.
Someone said prize.
I like your positivity.
My car?
It's a nice throwback, Joe.
All right, here.
Get the music going.
Yeah, here I'm trying to get trying to set the mood here. Just a
little bit of final countdown.
Little final countdown for you. All right. We got it. How's that coming through? Good for you guys? All right. Good for everybody. First question here. Who was the starting point guard for the Denver Nuggets in the 2019-2020 season?
Jamal Murray.
That was an easy one. He's 1 for 1.
Second question. Who was the 9th president of the United States?
What kind of animal is super mascot Rocky?
Isn't there multiple names for it? But he's like a mountain lion, cougar.
Yeah, you're right. A mountain lion, cougar, up here, if you will. Sure, all the above.
I don't think he's a puma.
No, he's not a puma.
These are 3 different things. So he's
Puma's not black. You think of it? That's a
panther.
It's a panther.
Come on, know your animal.
Come on, get out of here.
Number 3.
I'm sorry.
Who was the Denver Nuggets coach before Michael Malone?
Brian Shaw.
All right, well done.
Who must not be named.
Number 4. The ABA's Denver Nuggets changed their name to the Nuggets in 1974. Prior to that, they were known by what name?
I think they were the Denver Rockets.
That is correct. Nice work. Now, this is for a sticker pack.
Ooh.
Which former Nugget was nicknamed the Answer?
Is that Allen Iverson?
Hey, he did it!
Sticker pack, baby. Sticker pack.
You are through step 1.
Oh.
Do you want to keep your sticker pack or do you want to risk it all for a shirt?
I got to risk it all for the shirt, man.
Number 6. In 2014, the Denver Nuggets traded Doug McDermott for these two players?
That would be. Well, you mean like they traded Doug McDermott, which would end up being these two players?
Yes.
So do I get it for that? That is Gary Harris and Juancho Herman Gomez.
Oh no, Dave!
He sounded so confident too. I thought he had it. I did too. Wow.
I really like that. Yeah. Wow. And the worst
fan
part is,
Dave, but
he had a sticker pack in his hands on his birthday.
It just felt
To be honest, if you walk with the sticker pack, you're lame as hell.
Yeah. No, we peer pressured everyone out of doing that.
Yeah.
And nobody's made it to the shirt. It's incredible.
That's because
Yeah.
you ask 8 easy questions, and then you ask like an advanced calc, like
you
SAT
really do.
question for.
You really do ramp up the intensity pretty unrealistically, pretty quickly.
Hey, that's how I don't make the steps. Okay, actually, I do.
You actually 100% make the steps. Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much, everybody that tuned in to our show today. Is a lot of fun. Can't wait for the tomorrow night show. We'll see everybody then.